Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. This is going to be part 2 of that Chevelle Malibu. As you can see, the car is complete. However, you haven't seen the rest of the journey and what it took to get this car to where it is right now. When we left off, we were just finishing off getting the shims redone on the new 373 rear end gears and the new positive traction rear end. You haven't seen anything else since then, and there's a lot more to share with you. We ended up cutting this into 2 different pieces because the first video was already like a half an hour long and nobody wants to see us work for an hour straight. So this is going to be the part 2 of Steve and his absolutely stunning Malibu. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Stick around.
So I don't have any sintered shims that are the right thickness, which I need to go to the junkyard and tear down a bunch of axles and get a whole bunch more of those. My stock is getting low. I have an 84 thou, a 43 thou, and an 83 thou. So I'm going to go through my pile of shims and find one that is 10 thou thicker than any one of those. This is not really exciting. This is part of the process of setting up the rear axle. Got a whole bunch of 45s, 40s, nope, 60, nope, 70, nope. We have a winner. That didn't take too awful long. $92. It's 9 thou. I'll do that. So put these guys back in, and then we will check our backlash. See, I have to drive that in this time because of the extra thickness. And then we'll put on our cap. Roll it around a few times for giggles. Look at that, 6,000ths backlash. Once that wears in, it'll be right at 7, 8 thousandths. Right within specification of what they want. So that means all my shimming is done. I can take this thing apart, put my crush sleeve, pinion seal, my new pinion nut on, and then I can close this thing up with the new axle shafts. Awesome. Moving right along. So you can see the difference of the new crush sleeve on the left and the old used crush sleeve on the right. Ooh. That guy goes right there, and it gets pinched in between these guys by the nut. Simple stuff. Pinion bearing preload is set and good. Right where it needs to be. Feels pretty good. Put in my center carrier. Then put in my axles and my axle bearings, my axle seals. Looks pretty good. Now take it. Got a nice contact patch. Nice and wide, nice and straight on both sides. I'll take it. Alright, axle seals, axle bearings, axle shafts. Diff cover, pin, going from the side. Let's put in our seals and bearings. Done. Put my finger in it. Got my nice new USA standard gear shaft, dual drilled for screw in or press in studs. We pressed in new studs. Stick it in the hole. Put on our horseshoe clip. Hey, this axle actually fits. I don't have to beat the axle seal in. That was the strangest thing. I've never seen that before. I like it. Let's get the other one put together. And we'll put our cover on. Now always put some Loctite on your bolt. And remember that this bolt doesn't need to be put in with a 1/2 inch impact. It's just a little guy to hold this guy in place. It's just a little guy. I will say that it's very easy to break these off when you over tighten them. And it's not a lot of fun to get them back out. And it's time for a cover. One more rear gear, done and done. Well, I buttoned up the rears. Thought I would check over the front brakes since the lower springs were on incorrectly in the back. I figured I'd check the fronts. Sure enough, the fronts are on upside down where they're actually binding against the star adjuster. Looks like my rods are pretty good. My self-adjuster bars are where they need to be. So I'll just flip this guy over real quick. go. I feel like I just did a bunch of this stuff in the last truck we worked on. I'll try not to throw it on the ground again. Wheel adjuster's nice and clean. Moves smoothly. Drum brakes are always so much fun. There we go. So the springs were on upside down and the self-adjusters were on the wrong sides. And the self-adjuster wheels being on the wrong sides will make the brakes self-adjust them out of adjustment and cause a soft pedal. We'll fix that. This car is going to stop like a completely different vehicle. As far as these brakes were adjusted, out of adjustment. That should be perfect. Like that. My other adjuster is not quite contacting correctly, so we will adjust the rod a little bit because it's just a hair out. That's a little too much. Take it off 3 clicks. Like it. Take it. So for front brakes are adjusted. Got a couple oil leaks and starter shim to deal with. So let me go ahead and do my oil leak on my fuel pump, because we're going to put a fuel pump and fuel pump plate gasket on it. Let's see if we can get that oil to stop leaking. You're probably not going to be able to see much of this, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. But it's just 4 bolts and a couple of connectors. We'll replace these 2 gaskets, wipe it down, see if we can keep it from leaking. Oh, lots of surface imperfections. Sometimes you got to take the highs and match them up with the lows a little bit so that you can get a better gasket seal. I need to replace my sandpaper. You see, I just removed a bunch of highs off. Help it seal better. Sometimes you have to make the fuel pump push rod defy gravity. So you stick a little grease on it. Put it in this hole. And then it defies gravity. So I faced the gasket surface to take off all the highs. I faced the gasket surface on the block with a flat file to knock the highs off of it as well. It'll help us to get a better gasket seal. I'm going to put just a thin film of sealant on the gasket just to give it that little extra to try try to keep it from leaking. We're going to do all this work, and it may still leak when we're all done, because the gasket technology of the 60s was not all that great. But there's lots of little things you can do to try and make them seal up and make it better. Flat filing your surfaces is one of them. I also found the bottom 2 bolts were only grabbing by like a thread, so I put some longer bolts in the bottom, and I actually put the fuel pump bolts in while I tighten up my lower bolts, and then I can pull my upper bolts out, and I know when I go to put my fuel pump on, it will line up in the hole. The wheel bearing grease I stuck on the push rod will help me hold the fuel pump push rod up in the engine block while I drop the fuel pump in there. So little things to do. I'm gonna clean off my fuel pump, and then we'll stick it back in the car, and then this little bit will be done. Then it's time to move on to valve cover gaskets. We got a little extra trick to make those not leak as well. So we have a little bit of oil leak coming off the back of this valve cover. So we're gonna change the valve cover gasket. We're gonna put some wider load spreaders on it. See if we can keep this thing from leaking. Because the owner of this car does not like leaks. I'm probably gonna have to pull that out. No, I can get out of the way on there. Look at that. That gasket's in pretty good shape. You can see where it's leaking through it. So we'll put a new cork gasket on it. We'll put the spreaders on it. Probably a longer bolt. Torque it down and see if that works. Should work, might work. Don't know. Gotta try it. This is a clean engine bay. Wow. Steve, you spent many hours detailing, doing little details inside this engine bay. Yes, sir. There's a couple different kind of valve cover gaskets you can use. These work really good with aluminum valve covers. I don't know that I would try these with these tin ones, because these tin ones are pretty flimsy. I think these are going to absorb more. I don't know, but those are a really nice valve cover gasket. I would definitely use those under aluminum covers. We're going to use these cork ones, because I know they'll work if we can get it clamped down right. You can see how we're going to distribute the load of the bolt out farther. It'll help with our clamping force. The gasket's really not that bad. I think we may just put on the load spreaders and clamp it down. Grab my new bolts, because we got different bolts, because we're going to need to be longer. Oh, my fat fingers don't fit in there. Hey, can you hand me that long extension? I think it's right there.
Order.
Yes. Thank you.
Forceps.
I think that'll be better. Alright, I gotta check the oil pan bolts and check the timing.